Hey guys, Prometheus back here yet again with another episode of Risk, Reward, and Fire. Glad to be with you here on another Friday. Man, time does fly, but before we get started, I need you to hit that like button. I need you to subscribe, and I need you to turn on those post notifications as always. So if you remember last week, we touched on stablecoin dominance. That was here moving forward in relation to majors and why we should be forming some kind of bottom here heading into the middle of September. Well, first we'll start on Bitcoin. A little bit of a nasty move so far today on this morning open. We did get some jobs report that came in pretty soft with non-farm payroll and unemployment, but ultimately speaking, I don't think it's necessarily something to be worried about. Again, just looking at the chart, looking at what is shaping up here heading into Q4 and why I am bullish and why this should be some form of bottom formation here again headed into Q4, a more liquid environment, one that altcoins should do better in. And I still think that Ethereum is going to lead the charge. I don't think there's any reason to really refrain from having that mentality as of now. ETH has been the dominant performer off the lows, but anyways, that is that with that is what is going on kind of locally speaking here intraday. But wouldn't it be a shame if we just ran back this, this whole move almost to a T to where we're at right now? I've touched on this quite a bit on these episodes, so not going to go over it all too much. But I do want to look at Bitcoin here. I do want to look at ETH. I want to look at some other altcoins and maybe give you guys a little bit of something sprinkled on top that I gave to the Discord group in the call this morning, and what I think is a really, really, really good long opportunity that the market is presenting. So, we had stacked highs. Let's break down stablecoin dominance. We had stacked highs here over the weekend heading into the weekly open. And price really showed quite a bit of inability to get back above that. Because of that, we are showing some form of local supply here underneath what I believe to be, again, kind of the more higher time frame, higher confluence, higher probability that this is going to be our low for if we enter up into this region. But price was shaping up pretty, it was looking pretty heavy here, again, headed into the week. And towards the beginning of the week, we started to see a lot of rejections, especially at, on these daily closes, right? And even into today, price and yesterday, price coming into the region, really an inability to see any appreciation of the upside in stablecoin dominance. This makes me think, if I were to break this down, this is supply. What we had was an expansionary candle up into this move. What is price likely going to do to check to see if it is sufficient in nature? We are going to most likely come back down into this POI, into this order block, and then kind of reevaluate from there whether or not then we're headed into, again, the final supply region, or if we break down. If you lose these lows, this is the next POI region that I'm really watching for here on stablecoin dominance. If we do see the rejection here on the daily today, if we start pressing up here into the supply region, again, targeting our high time frame, POI set back from July earlier this year, and then we'll look to see how we react out of it, whether or not we come up into it in a strong, harsh rejection or some form of distribution and rollover, then subsequently into 6% and then thereafter lower. But again, there's a few different scenarios that I could see shaping up here, and as of right now, there is kind of a rejection forming on the daily at the supply on stablecoin dominance. So what does that mean? We are going to be targeting, again, this next POI region as some form of, whether the move was sufficient or not, and we'll look to then reevaluate right there. Again, I look at Solana here in particular. Solana looks like it's shaping up pretty nicely. There is quite a bit of liquidity stacked up here right at $182. something that I'm kind of eyeing if you are looking for potential short hedges in the scenario that we do see a further breakdown in stablecoin dominance and out of majors. Solana is probably going to be one of the better candidates because of the volatility that it's been realizing over the past few weeks for those short hedges to really to maximize that downside return. But again, you can have a very tight invalidation here on Solana. But we are kind of pressing up into this supply region that is very, very important, that has acted as a very, very important region thus far for Solana. This 200 to 210 level, still having troubles breaking up through it. I very much so in the camp that, okay, if you break this level, 240 should be next, and you'll see on-chain really heat up. And with what Coinbase is doing over on Base, I think that you're going to have a monster Q4 for altcoins and on-chain in particular. Base integrating their, or Coinbase integrating their entire customer base, only a portion of it so far, but looking to integrate their entire customer base onto Base and opening up, on-chain trading for them is huge. You talk about Pump Fund, Bonk, the Solana ecosystem popping off again with the new meta being cards and Hutch, kind of the ICM coming back alive again. So on-chain's looking like it's shaping up really nice heading into Q4, but we are going to need some, we are going to need majors to behave, and then we'll kind of see that roll over into altcoins. So going to touch on XRP here. I think this is going to be kind of the final little point that I want to make here in regards to why bottoms are for buying. I look at the structures, and it's something I've talked about, I think, a few times on this episode. I know I've talked about it in the Discord. I've talked about it on X Spaces several times, but we should be seeing, again, some here relatively shortly appreciation out of alts. Could I expect lower alongside, in confluence of stablecoin dominance pressing up into that final POI supply region? Absolutely. But one of them that's looking fantastic is XRP. I've been mentioning quite a bit that I'm sticking to my guns in regards to institutions listing more and newer ETFs. What is likely going to be the next name that gets approved? It's probably XRP, right? They just won their case. Institutions are going to want to make money. It's the name that people who don't know anything about crypto know. They know XRP alongside Ethereum and Bitcoin. So probably going to be next up. Again, you look at structural similarities similar to what we saw from the, really since November of last year. You saw large expansionary candle into two kind of tops, similar to what we saw here, kind of two tops. And then you saw compression ensue after that first initial sell-off, just like what we had here. You eventually come back, you take it. This is no longer a naked short. Liquidity has been ran, just like what we had here. Probably see some form of bounce, and this is where we can get a little bit granular. I look at RSI on the daily. It looks like it definitely has a little bit more room to the downside, and I am very much so in the camp that here very, very soon you're going to be seeing some nice appreciation of the upside. I look at the stacked highs. I look at the supply regions. This should resolve to the upside as liquidity gets taken on the sell side. But, is this a little bit early? Are we a little bit early to this trade in XRP? I think potentially speaking, you could be. At minimum, you have massive market maker demand right here between 2.7 and 2.75. You'd expect for this region to hold. It would act as some form of high time frame accumulation model. Probably occurs with this rollover in the RSI and rejection from the 50 one last time in confluence with the trend line before we do get the finality in regards to RSI on the daily, reaching this kind of oversold territory, and should act as some form of high time frame low, completing the accumulation model, the breakout of the descending trend line, running all the stops. What should you expect, right? If you took the trade as of right now, you could line it up something similar to this. You want to keep your stop a little bit lower just to give the trade room to breathe. If they do try to come back down and wick you out, you don't necessarily want that to happen, because whatever price action we get to the downside here moving forward occurs, should be the final move. Where that or how low that, kind of goes is to be determined. But you want to, again, like I said, give the trade room to breathe and not get pushed out of the position before you can see it really resolve in the direction that that it's going to resolve it to. So I most likely going to resolve to. You can never be entirely sure. So TP1 should be the supply region. TP2 is going to be your next supply region. Again, take profits on the way up. Once you get to TP1, kind of set it to break even, yada, yada, yada. You kind of know how it goes. So that is the alpha for you guys today. Again, looking at some structures that look really strong across the board. XRP being one for a candidate in regards to long position. Solana looking pretty decent here, but could also act as a hedge to the downside as well. I look at Pepe again. I look at MOG. These tickers all are at high time frame demand levels, especially, look at MOG. High time frame demand levels swept this low. You are now in this market maker demand with RSI looking to now uninvert and curl back to the upside for it to enter into its third drive higher. Pepe, very similar. Just a little bit of shenanigans here on the intraday, which you shouldn't be too worried about or be getting all that caught up in. A little bit of a reversal here on futures. We had a nice open. Unfortunately, we did get that reversal, like I said. Home builders are doing well. If you follow me on X, I put those out there quite a while ago, and those have done fantastic so far. But I do think, again, that this move to the downside should be resolving here probably over the next week or two if we do get further downside, but the bottom should be forming and you should be looking to be accumulating structures that look good. That's the name of the game, buying the bottoms. Could Bitcoin come down into 98 to 101? It could. That would be an absolute generational buying opportunity in my opinion. But that's what I got here for you guys. I'm going to keep it nice and sweet. With that being said, give this video a like, give it a comment, subscribe, follow me over on X, Prometheus_1. I appreciate you guys as always. Another fantastic Friday here on the Because Bitcoin YouTube channel. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. All the love and support you guys have been showing us recently. It means a lot. It really, really does. And I hope that I can give you guys a little bit of insight into the markets, into what I'm seeing, make you a little bit of money, help you from losing money, however that may be. That's the name of the game. So with that being said, guys, again, I appreciate you as always. Take care, and Prometheus out.